Michael Holgate, welcome to Profile.
Thank you.
And I want to start by just sharing this resume. As I said to you before we started, you've been very, very busy, visionary arts manager and creative director with a focus on post-colonial Caribbean aesthetic and culture.
Yes.
We'll talk a little bit about what that means. Head of the Philip Sherlock Center for the Creative Arts, though your work, I would say, at the University of the West Indies, Mona, has expanded.
Yeah.
Philip Sherlock is part of that work. Artistic director at the Ashe Company, founder of Jamaica Dance Umbrella, award-winning writer, producer, and director, lecturer in theater, culture, and performance. I'm reading it all out. Author of Night of the Indigo and Edutainment Therapy, facilitator for empowerment programs, organizations like UNICEF and USAID, choreographer for major events including ICC Cricket, Jamaica Grand Gala, featured actor in One Love, specializes in musical theater, folk dance, and cultural justice. And recently, because you don't have enough to do, just completed and defended a PhD. Mm-hmm. So when you listen to all of this, what do you think?
I'm just like, who is that? Who is that? I love what I do. I love what I do, and so I keep doing it. And I think because I keep doing it and I do it with love and passion, and I make sure that I get the training that I need, I do it well enough to get more work.
What is interesting about this, though, if we talk about your trajectory into the arts, is that at the beginning, you might have been sort of around the arts, adjacent to it, but it wasn't quite what you were doing. And I want to start by talking a little bit about the people who raised you, so that people can have a context. Tell me about your parents.
Mother, teacher, father, preacher. My mother taught at St. Peter Claver Primary School, and she was actually my grade 2 teacher. And my father was a preacher and a visiting father. He never lived with us. And I saw enough of my father. He was there, I think practically it felt like every week or every other week unless he was off the island. And my mother, I'm grateful to her for, instilling such values in us about life, about love, about nurturing, about discipline, about doing what you love.
What were they saying to you, your mother and father, as they were raising you?
So my mother was focused on a good education, a solid education. My father was focused on spirituality, having a connection with God. I think one of my favorite spiritual lessons that I've never forgotten is that he told me about. He said, when you're talking to God, it's like you send up a kite up into the sky, and it's a very powerful kite. It can go very far, and it go all the way up into the heavens such that you can't even see it anymore. So every time you need it, all you have to do is pull on the string and you'll feel it, So that's just one of the things that he left with me. He passed last year. But my father taught me those kinds of spiritual lessons. And my mother taught me about how to talk to people, how to deal with people, and from a very heart-centered space. So I think both of them, maybe a little bit of yin and yang, kind of nurtured me to be who I am.
And in terms, also, I said earlier that you are sort of adjacent to the arts. I'm talking about how each of them in their own way were exposing you to some of what you do right now. And for your mother, you said that's about reading. Your family was a reading family.
Yeah, a reading family for sure. Like the breakfast table with my mother and my brothers would be, you reach the breakfast table, my mother probably reading the newspaper, my brother probably reading a Louis L'Amour, I'm reading a Hardy Boy, or Nancy Drew, or Harlequin Romance, or one of them things, because I read everything. And, no conversation, no nothing, we just a read. So I kind of fit in with this generation where everybody have them phone, because I'm always into a book. So now I can always be reading on my phone and so on. But, that's what it was. My mother was really about literature, about English language. She was a literature teacher. She would have been if she had gone to a high school. But she taught primary school, and so it was in her still, and I guess in us.
In relation to your father now, a lot of the exposure to musical instruments.
Mm-hmm. So my father, in addition to being a preacher, Kenneth Holgate, in addition to being a preacher, he eventually became a bishop of a church. But in addition to being a preacher, he reared dogs, he was a farmer, he was an accountant, big accountant as well, and singer. He played the guitar, and he gave me my first guitar. He gave me my first acoustic guitar and my first electric guitar. He gave me my first piano keyboard. He gave me my first typewriter. Back in the day, you know, of course, I got my typewriter and I learned.
People are like, what's a typewriter? But we're not going to get with those people right now.
Yeah, so I taught myself to type using that typewriter that he gave me. So I would say that my father contributed greatly to the artist that I am in terms of maybe he saw it in me and just decided that he needed to do these things. But when he gave it to me, I felt happy, you know, and so I used them. I taught myself to play the guitar, I taught myself to type, and then I taught myself the piano from what I'd learned from the guitar, you know, reading books and stuff like that.
And you said even younger, you were also dabbling in your writing as well.
Mm-hmm.
You're also writing poems, writing.
Yeah, so always dabbling, always writing. One of the things that I love that I've never forgotten that my mother constantly said was, who taught the first man? Who taught the first man? So anything that I want to do, you know. And I said, Mommy, you can't show me. She said, go and do it yourself. Who taught the first man? Who taught the first man? And that's really just her way of saying, you can always go and discover something for yourself and make it your thing. You don't have to wait for somebody to teach you, you know. So I really loved that.
So no,
and it's something that lives with me to this very day. I'm so independent. I love people, but I'm very independent-minded. If I ask you to do something for me and we're working and stuff like that and you're not doing it, I'm going to do it myself.
You'll figure it out.
I'm going to do it myself, yeah.
So no, that's the context, and I wanted to set it because, you know, all of this exposure, but then when you go off now from St. Peter Claver to next school, which the next step, which is Wolmer's Boys.
The best school in Jamaica. Continue.
No, don't take that one on. That is not what he ended up doing. He ended up not doing the arts, but the sciences. Yeah. So how did he end up back in the arts? We're going to be taking our first break on Profile. My guest today is the artistic director of the Ashe Company, and he's the head of the Philip Sherlock Center for the Creative Arts at the University of the West Indies, Dr. Michael Holgate. I am speaking it into being. We'll be back with you after these messages.